This is pretty much a declaration of war. The attacks, but also the comments that just came in a few minutes ago. Israel's UN envoy says this operation will continue until all Iranian threats are neutralized, and the timeline is uncertain with no clear end in sight, which is very different to what we've heard earlier, that this is a 2-week campaign. Your initial thoughts on the attacks we saw a few hours ago, and also, is that really a declaration of war?
Yeah, of course, it's a declaration of war. It's yet another aggressive war by Israel and their imperial empire. And they feel that they could attack anyone with impunity. And maybe they're right. And maybe that, with America's backing and the West's backing, they could oppress and humiliate and take over any Muslim country they want. I don't know. So in terms of their military capabilities, we've given them $311 billion. So they've got immense military capabilities. Iran doesn't have much, apparently. I don't know. They sounded like they were overhyped, but what'll happen is if after Israel starts this war, which can we all acknowledge now? Israel started the war. Period. Because later,
I'll go against that.
Yeah, of course you will. Later, yeah, okay, whatever. So later, all of American media will pretend poor little Israel had to defend themselves. Oh my God, poor defenseless, tiny little Israel. Just because they launched all these wars against all their neighbors, occupy their neighbors, oppress them for 58 years, slaughter them whenever they like, if they get counterattacked, the terrorist Muslims. So that's what we're going to hear in American media. And Israel will do massive propaganda, but they don't even need it because they own Trump, they own Biden, they walk them around like little poodles. And so and you're laughing, because it's true, right? They're like,
I'll respond when you're done. You can
look at the bitch Americans we control like dogs, right?
That's exactly what Can I respond, Cenk?
Yeah, that sounds right, because that is what Israel thinks. So they're going to walk this around and hold on, let me finish. And the next thing they're going to do is, can you believe Iran? It counterattacked those terrorists. More money. Give me more money. America, you owe me. $311 billion is not enough. Give me another $300 billion. You owe me for all the wars that I start for self-defense. Okay. And so, yeah, that's what's coming next. America's going to get robbed like we always do. And they're going to pretend it's self-defense when we all just saw with our eyes, the whole wide world, Israel started this war. I think what's interesting is, did Trump get played? And he's like, he told them not to attack. They did. And then, oops, you're going to look weak because Netanyahu said to you, who the hell do you think you are, Trump? You're nobody. I run this place. So Trump then this morning, he's like, I knew it. I'm in. Yeah. We struck. Yes. Well, why did your Secretary of State last night say we had nothing to do with it then? So which one is it? Did we have nothing to do with it, or you knew and you're happy about it? Which one?
Which one do you think?
I think he didn't know about it. I think that Netanyahu thinks he's the king of the world and he owns America. So he said, who cares? I'll attack them and I'll make those dogs pay for it. And what difference does it make? I'll give Trump a biscuit. AIPAC will give him money. The Adelsons will give him money. And then he'll serve me just like Biden did, just like Kamala Harris would have, just like every American president has served Israel my entire lifetime. If you're denying this, you're on a different planet. Oh, AIPAC spent the most money on members of Congress in this election cycle. Don't say it. Don't say it. Oh my God. It'll be anti-Semitic to point out a fact, a stone cold fact. And then the hilarious part is, again, mostly mainstream media and of course, Israeli apologists come and go, are you saying that American politicians would be affected by hundreds of millions of dollars that AIPAC has given them? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Unquestionably. So like dogs, like for big pharma and big oil and the banks, everything, like Congress goes, yes, sir. Where's the money, sir? I'll start any war you like, sir, and I'll make the Americans, those poor guys in Kansas and Nebraska, barely getting along, getting crushed by corporate rule, barely have enough wages. No, We're going to take money out of your paycheck to pay for all of Israel's wars. And by the way, Israel has paid family leave. You don't have it. They have universal health care. You don't have it. And you owe Israel, our special ally, another $300 billion. We don't owe them anything. Get out of there. Get out of Israel. They should get $0 and do not pay for this war. We didn't ask for this war. MAGA didn't ask for it. The left wing didn't ask for it. Not a single non-Israeli lobbyist asked for this war. So let Israel pay for their own goddamn wars.
Yoel, do you so you started disagreeing when Cenk mentioned that Israel started this war. Do you disagree with that statement?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, when one swears for genocide, that we're going to wipe off. Wow, I got one word out. Well done, Cenk. So when Iran says that we're going to go genocide and wipe off the Jewish state off the map, I mean, that's already a declaration of war. And then what's funny is that all of you are crying, oh, we need more money, look at us. You remind me of like Bollywood, the fake actors in Gaza that won the money through U.S. aid and the Democratic Party. I oppose America giving $1 to Israel. I always have, because America giving Israel money and supporting is a way to control Israel, make us do America's dirty work in the Middle East that I do not think Israel should be doing. Israel should be on a playing field, which should be similar, kind of like England, where Israel totally is responsible for her own future, and America shouldn't be involved. America should pursue her best interest. Israel should pursue.
Joe, can I give you some breaking news? Just some breaking news. Just breaking news.
They give you money to control you and your votes, like the Democrats may do in America, and it's the same thing that the American government does. That they want to control people, they want to control the Middle East without having them to risk their own soldiers. So what they do is they force Israel.
So there is I've got the breaking news, Yoel and Cenk. The breaking news here, and I'm guessing also that's what you want to mention, Stefano, is that Trump, Israeli officials are now saying to reporters that Trump, he's pretended initially that he opposed the war, but privately he gave the
No. I got a different one.
What's yours?
That was earlier today. This one is, and I think this is coming from a report on the New York Times. Iranian sources say General Ismail Ghani, the IRGC Quds Force commander, who's in charge of all the proxies, has been killed in the strikes. So the successor of Soleimani, Ghani, was killed in these strikes, and he's the Quds Force commander. This is coming from the Farnaz Fasihi, the New York Times reporter that covers Iran.
By the way, if Iran killed the same level officers in Israel, everyone in Israel would say, "Oh, terrorism!
Your hypothetical crying doesn't
Israeli generals! Oh my God!
It's not going to happen because Iran's a paper tiger. It's not going to happen anyway because Israel is not going to happen undermine their own people. Take all the money from the people, oppress them. Iran takes it all on weapons, and they're totally compromised by Israel and the Mossad because so many people hate them. Their own people hate them. And now I know that you're anti-Western because you were complaining about Western support of Israel. And you
anti-Western. The guy who wants to control the West is telling me I'm anti-Western. I love the West, brother. You ain't got nothing to do with the West. I do agree with you. Israel should get $0.
Well, zero, because I don't want America controlling Israel. Because Israel is doing all of America's dirty work right now. I don't want America's dirty work. Why do you think Trump is having Israel do it?
We have
my dirty work.
We had no reason to hate Muslims until Israel.
Genocidal jihadis, people that you support.
Yeah, I don't support them. I don't support any genocide.
Clearly you have,
including Israeli genocide, the butchering of Gaza.
The West stands with Israel and you oppose
Let me guess. You support how Israel butchered Gaza, right? You support killing 17,000
You don't know what I support. You were wrong already about me on aid, about America aid. You don't know anything I support.
All right,
you don't know
tell me how.
I'm a 5,000 follower account.
What's wrong about Gaza?
I didn't get money to start my YouTube channel like you did that I needed. I'm building it myself, kind of like Mario did. I'm trying to do a thing. I didn't need that. It's not top down. Talk about taking money. How much money did you take?
From who?
Just a quick question here. On the Axios, I'll let you respond to that allegation quickly.
You don't know shit. Go ahead.
The reports from Axios that Trump gave Israel the green light, does that change things in your perspective? Cenk and Yoel, the discussion goes to both of you guys. Does that mean Israel has US's back for a full-blown war with Iran that could go on for weeks, even more than 2 weeks?
Well, look, it's so hard to tell with Trump. Number one, he's a giant flip-flopper, okay? And so sometimes he does the right thing. He tells Israel not to attack. Israel tells him to attack. He says no. I give him credit for that. I give him credit where credit is due, right? Then he turns around and goes, yeah, I was just kidding about being anti-war. I mean, that story is, okay, yeah, I gave him the green light. I don't know if that's true or untrue. But now that he said it, we're wedded to it. So now we become Israel's dogs again. Now we have to say, okay, now we're going to fight Israel's war. We're going to fund Israel's war. And oh yeah, of course, and then the rhetoric will change. And oh yes, Iran is all mullahs and terrorists and dangerous, and we have to murder them before they did anything. We had to start the war. It was self-defense. So now Trump will be just like Biden, and he'll be just like every American president, where he'll go, Israel, sir, what can I do for you, sir? And that's what he's doing right now. So,
but do you think this could be?
Do you honestly, in general, do you think Trump and Biden have a similar foreign policy or approach to the Middle East? I'm just seriously curious, because I have never heard anyone say foreign policy. I think they're far apart, and their worldview, regardless of what you think. You really think they're more similar, or you just think Israel controls every president?
Yeah, no, you'll then prepare to be shocked, not just by my opinion, but by a lot of MAGA's opinion, a lot of the left wing's opinion, which is that
I don't care what other people. What's your opinion?
No, you're saying you've never heard it before. I'll speak for a huge portion of the internet. Yes, we think Biden and Trump, while rhetorically saying slightly different things or sometimes very different things about Israel, will do and have done the same exact thing, which is whatever Netanyahu orders them to do.
Biden had an embargo.
Stone cold fact. Stone cold fact. Doggy, come here, treat. And Biden and Trump both go like little doggy.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know how you think so lowly of your presidents. It's pretty insane. Whether they're left or they're right.
I do, because they're corrupt. And they take money.
Sure, yeah. From your friends in Qatar. They take money from Qatar. I'm going to talk about the Qatari money. Far more than AIPAC giving money to people that already support it than vote the same as AIPAC.
So if I could jump in quickly just to something where because I think where Joel has a point, and because I understand where Cenk is from, but where I believe Joel actually has a point is, I do believe that this is a scenario where the United States is more than happy to just say, Israel, have at it. Right. I do believe that this is a scenario where the United States, both under the Biden administration and the Trump administration, just said, Israel, take care of it. Right. And to be honest, right, especially in operations inside of Iran, we're more than happy to say, Israel, all you have your Mossad. And the issue, but the problem for the Iranians is that the Israeli intelligence apparatus, specifically Mossad, has deeply penetrated Iran's government, military, and intelligence apparatus. Full-heartedly all over. And so that also goes to the point of highlighting something that is a weakness within the Iranian regime, is that they do not have an effective counterintelligence apparatus. They do not have an effective intelligence apparatus, because ever since the failures of October 7th from the Israeli perspective, right, when that happened, what we have seen is a cascading effect of which the axis of resistance, starting with Hamas, Hezbollah, and now in Iran, where those main aspects and those main actors that Iran has spent decades and decades and decades building and really leveraging as this kind of deterrent, has been completely gutted. And so now the question is, from the Iranian perspective, and I go, Mario, this I think goes to you, how does Iran respond? Because people are mentioning there is something that Iranians can do, which is the Straits of Hormuz. Right, is trying to shut down the Straits of Hormuz as this idea, and I think that is an option for Iran if they believe the regime is in trouble. One way to see, is the regime, the Iranian regime and the Islamic Republic, at crisis of falling and being overturned, or whatever the term we want to use, one of the areas is the reaction that the Iranian government would have, and where I would be looking at is the Straits of Hormuz, because the problem is that's a Hail Mary last attempt, because at that point you are inviting the United States to intervene. And then the problems where I think now the Iranians are looking into is, if Israel is able to operate inside of Iran, where they have Israeli drones openly flying over Iranian airspace, which we haven't even talked about how that is going to shatter the image of strength from the Islamic Republic. Like, this hasn't happened since the Iran-Iraq War, right? Let's make this abundantly clear. In the Iran-Iraq War, the Islamic Republic has said, we just formed a new government. Saddam Hussein invaded us. The world was against us. Everybody supported Saddam Hussein. We're rallying together. And that was the rallying of flag. We actually did see that during the Iran-Iraq War with the Islamic Republic. And it was a nascent aspect. Now they've been in power for 4 decades, over 5 decades now, right? Over 5 decades, or close to. And so now the problem is that they can't use that anymore. And all the efforts that the Islamic Republic really tried to do to prevent a scenario like this was based out of the Axis as resistance. The only ones they have right now really still somewhat in play is the Houthis, but even now with the capabilities that they have in the Red Sea have been degraded. They can be a nuisance, but they can't. But again, for international shipping, I think it's important to highlight, you don't really need to effectively do a blockade. Insurance companies freak out with just one missile flying through. That's more than enough. But in the grand scheme of a blockade, really the Houthis are not. The only other actor I would be looking, though, at right now is these Iranian pro-militia groups in Iraq. And so because there is a U.S. military presence in Iraq and a smaller one, and really Syria, that's a lot of them have been pulled out. That's maybe where Iran might try to leverage. But again, that's against the United States. And I don't know if the Islamic Republic is really willing to open a front against the United States, considering how Israel's done that. And that's something that we've seen. I think this was a lesson learned from, and I've said this, Mario, before in your spaces. If you look at 2006, the Israeli-Lebanon war, I think how you need to analyze that is the United States Vietnam, right? Because after Vietnam, the U.S. military fundamentally transformed and changed everything from how we fight, doctrine. We established the U.S. Army Training Command. We developed a land-air concept, and all of that we saw after Vietnam showed in the success of the Gulf War, the first Persian War, right? When the United States decimated Saddam Hussein in a couple of days, really, right? It was a massive success. I think 2006 was Israel's Vietnam. They realized there's enormous problems within not only the IDF, but as a country as a whole, and to confront a situation like this. And now, although October 7th was a surprise and a major failure, when you see how the Israelis were quickly able to respond and to address to the problem set, they were much more successful. And I think this is where one aspect that it needs to be mentioned, and this is after 2006, is Iron Dome. Because now the problem that Iran, and I think these proxies, is they planned and fought as if this was still 2006. Israel put measures in place to prevent that, specifically the Iron Dome, so that their population was not at risk, and it gives them leeway and time to continue to operate. And then the second aspect was an intelligence operation, and really how Israel was able to penetrate Hezbollah, Iran, and I think a lot of that also has to do with the Syrian civil war and Bashar al-Assad. Ever since the Syrian civil war and Hezbollah commitment to there, that opened up the Israelis' ability to penetrate in Iran, and slowly from October 7th to now, we've seen this degradation, and I think that's the problem that Iran is, and this goes to the retaliation aspect. They're in a hard place because where they can really hurt and really cause damage would probably require a response from the United States. So long term, they might try to do, for example, we're seeing prices of oil skyrocket. Obviously, that's going to happen. Now, a lot of that is panic. Asia, generally in the oil market, they panic and they buy quickly. So the question is, can the United States adjust that? Maybe that's something, if this goes long term, that Iran tries to reduce and try to really put pain in the United States. But at the end of the day, they're an oil exporting country as well. And if they're not, and if their country's at war, and that, you have, I believe it's a Karg Island, right? Like 90% of Iranian export goes through there. That's an open target. And it goes back to the regime change, why I don't think it is. Because if they really wanted a regime change, just bomb that island, 90% of Iranian oil ceases. Their economy collapses. And we haven't seen that.
And Cenk, before you respond, let me give you some breaking news that's happened while we're speaking, just to kind of highlight how fast things are moving. As you mentioned, Stefano, the leader of the Quds forces, which is a pretty big piece of news, Israel saying he's been targeted and was struck by one of the strikes. Also, Reuters reports that Israel's airstrikes on Iran have led to the collapse of Iran's military chain of command. Also, an Air Force commander said in a letter to service members, quote, "This is a historic campaign to remove an existential threat to Israel and the entire Western world. It is our turn to exert our full power in the air and on the ground." That's according to Channel 13. And lastly, one last comment here that was a piece of news that was mentioned is that we've got movement of Iranian launch pads has been detected, and Reuters predicts a massive Iranian response within the next few hours. That all came in literally while we're speaking. Cenk, I'd love you to respond to what Stefano's mentioned, but more importantly, I think the important question that everyone's thinking, do you think we are at a full-blown war between Israel and Iran, which Stefano mentioned earlier? And also, what does that mean politically for Trump?
Yeah. So it means he failed, but I'll get back to that in a second. So first of all, I agree with everything Stefano said. So I think that his assessment of Iran's capabilities are correct as far as I can see from other things that I've read and seen. You know, I think Israel has a massive advantage here, and I don't think that it's that. You know, it's partly an accident, partly not, that their only recourse is Strait of Hormuz, which would then affect American interests, because then Israel goes, oh, thank you very much. Now I drag America into the war and I make them pay for all of it and maybe fight it if it gets bad. If it doesn't get bad, Israel can handle it on its own. But if it gets really bad, of course they're going to make us fight it. And then they're going to say, oh my God, we got attacked. Nobody could have seen it coming after we killed all their top leaders and after we decimated the country and humiliated them. And humiliated the entire Middle East. I'm so shocked that we were attacked. Oh my God. Now you have to fund it for the rest of your lives. You have to give Israel another 100 billion, 200 billion. I got
Israel
no
doesn't
interest.
want money.
Okay, it's always about the money,
from
brother.
Israeli perspective, it's not. It's. I didn't say it. You did. Israel had the opportunity. There were discussions decades ago. Should Israel join NATO? Israel rejected joining NATO. I oppose NATO, but that's irrelevant. Thank God. I totally agree. It's bad for everyone. In general, I think NATO needs to be reformed or maybe disbanded. I don't think it's good for anybody. But Israel did, because the Zionist, the Jewish vision is that we are going to be independent. And that is the Israeli position. I'll tell you how Israel became dependent if you want to know it. It's actually fascinating. Just more economic, but it goes to back of it. But it's not that Israel wanted it. It was forced on it in order for Israel to do peace with Egypt and give up the Sinai. Israel was no longer able to launch satellites. Unfortunately, Israel's too narrow. It would have to do it against the orbit, not for it. So part of it, and that prevented a lot of different defense that Israel had. So therefore, America said, in order for you to do peace and give the Sinai to Egypt, that America gave military and financial guarantees. And unfortunately, what that ended up doing, Israel became dependent on it. And so whenever they wanted to, and that's how it all started. It was a huge mistake. God willing, this war walks it back. I know you agree with me that America should not be giving aid to any nation, and especially Israel. And I'm saying this as an Israeli and as a Zionist. I don't want the aid. I want me to be able to do what I want to do. You should be able to do what you want to do. Americans do what we want to do. And a lot of times we'll have shared interests, and that's great. And when that is, we'll collaborate. And that's what Trump and maybe Bibi think now. And when we don't, you and I will spit it out, and then we'll see what happens. But I don't think it's really. I think you might be misreading things to think that the amount that Israel receives in aid is like 0.6% of his GDP. And second, we're forced to buy American products, American weapons, which is helping the American military industrial complex. That's what America wants. Israel now cannot build her own weapons to compete against the United States military industrial complex. And that's why America forces Israel to take aid. And it's not aid, American weapons. Yeah, sure.
So first, is it Yoel or Joel?
Yoel.
Yoel.
Okay. Joel is the English of Yoel.
Yeah. So Yoel, if poor Israel is being forced to take American taxpayer money, why is AIPAC spending hundreds of millions of dollars bribing our congressmen?
Sure, I can answer that, or I'll give my opinion. One, AIPAC has nothing to do with Israel. They're American Jews largely. They are, sure. Number two, they give people that already support their same vision. They just give them money to help people get elected. Yeah. I think a lot of people give people that already agree with them. Did Qatar just give, America Trump a plane for free?
No.
No. Okay.
Qatar wants something in return.
Yeah,
and
but
so
they
does Israel, obviously.
Right. But I'm just saying, in this case, they actually had something aligned. AIPAC has certain values that they wanted the America-Israel partnership to close. Yeah. And let's say there's someone like Ted Cruz who also believes that.
Really?
AIPAC give the money. Yes, that's what I believe.
You really believe that AIPAC?
I just said I did. You can
hold on. I'm just going to repeat it. I just want to be clear. Yeah. AIPAC is giving hundreds of millions of dollars to 87% of Congress and to both to presidents, Democrat and Republican, because look at that, we just happen to agree not to purchase loyalty, to get back $100 billion. They're just doing it out of the goodness of their heart.
Cenk, let me ask you a question, because I know Mario just came back.
I need to go in a couple minutes.
Cenk, let me ask you a question though. But you said you kind of agreed with this, but then the question that I have is, why not it's the other way around? Like, why is you're saying, okay, yes, AIPAC and all these organizations gives money to Israel, and then the United States gives money to to AIPAC gives money to U.S. congressmen, et cetera, elections. We all know this, et cetera. And then what Yoel is saying is, well, America gives us money for, like, the Iron Dome wouldn't exist without the United States.
By the way, I oppose the Iron Dome because strategically it's terrible. Because the war would not be where we are now, both Gaza and probably Iran, but definitely Gaza, if Israel didn't have the Iron Dome, because Israel would have responded harsh and properly instead of saying, oh, the whole Israeli population, we're just going to make you go and run to bomb shelters because we have the Iron Dome. And we kept tolerating people shooting missiles, which hurt against, in my opinion, how Israel's perceived geopolitically. It goes against the justice of your own cause if you're not willing to fight back. And Israel didn't, because it built a castle mentality strategy instead of an offensive strategy when it comes to retaliation. I think the Iron Dome has been a strategic mistake for Israel. And it was pushed by Obama for that reason, to cover for Israel so they wouldn't fight back. Obama was behind. Obama was a big supporter. Wasn't behind. He was a big supporter on getting the Iron Dome out in order to buy more time, to have some more bullshit peace. And what it does is it made Hamas stronger. It made this war happen. This whole thing happen because Israel didn't have proper deterrence. It didn't have proper deterrence because it didn't have her own weapons. Because America military industrial complex is forcing it, not letting Israel develop her own weapons and making her buy American weapons. And then they ended up doing an embargo. And then we're also not letting fight our own terms because we have to use the Iron Dome, which costs what, $50,000 to shoot down something that costs a few $100. And it's unsustainable. While everyone like me and my kids have to run to a shelter.
But Cenk, so then why not? But then that's the question, right? Why not view it also from, or the other way around? Whereas now the United States, basically, as I mentioned earlier, just saying to Israel, do our dirty work for us, because the U.S. and Iran have had a shadow war since the Islamic Revolution in 1979. So why not? It's also the other way around.
Yeah. So two things. First of all, I want to thank Mario for putting together a really interesting conversation because, funny enough, I was in favor of Iron Dome and Yoel apparently was against it. And the reason that I was in favor of Iron Dome was because I believe in protecting innocent civilians. I make no distinction between Israelis and Palestinians or Iranians, right? So I know Israelis think that one Israeli life is worth like 1 million Muslim lives, but
I never said that.
Right.
That's a libel. You just made up a lie. You made up a lie. Yeah. It's a conspiracy. I think Jews are superior to everyone else. Which
yeah.
And I don't like that you think that.
You're doing it.
That's it. That's what
You're
you just
doing
did.
You're doing it.
Israel thinks their lives are
okay, can I finish?
Everyone else.
Can I finish?
Let him finish.
Yeah, go ahead. Continue with the libel.
So October 7th, heartbreaking, 36 Israeli kids die. Just absolutely tragic. I say that's tragic. And then 17,000 dead kids in Gaza, and they don't give a shit at all. And then they go, I can't believe
those down and revise many of them to be a military adult age men. That's Hamas.
Propaganda.
Hamas.
All means Palestinian lives are worthless.
If it's anything, it's less than what Hamas says. Because Hamas propagandas and lies all the time, which you know.
Whatever. Yoel, can you just let me finish?
Let him finish.
Okay, he's saying the same thing over and over.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm trying to get to it, right? So I know you think dead Palestinian kids are no big deal. I already got that. Everybody gets that. Everybody gets that, Yoel. Israel doesn't give a shit about Muslims. They love to slaughter them. Wait. Let me just say something.
Let him finish his point because I want to see if it's why can't he view it from the other way around the United States?
And last thing on Iron Dome is, ironically, I'm not sure I was right anymore because I like that it protects Israeli civilians, but power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So now Israel thinks they're invincible. So they're attacking all of their neighbors and they're slaughtering anyone they like. And they're saying, now we're going to steal Gaza. So it's made them feel like, oh, I have absolute power and I can do whatever the fuck I want. And besides which, I'm going to get my bitch America to pay for it, right? And to authorize it. And so I appreciate that Yoel is saying, fuck that. Stop giving Israel money. Let them, they're a grown-up country. Just go already, okay? And then when you commit monstrous war crimes, hopefully the world can unite against you. Okay, now in terms of, Stefano, you were asking why, like, flip it and do what?
So basically, so it's because you're saying, okay, AIPAC buying Congress.
Yeah.
Right, and then there's like, so Israel, so U.S. is the lapdog of Israel.
Yes,
but then to Joel's point, it's the other way around, and how he views it is, well, the U.S., because of our military, and to his point, Biden did do an embargo, said, hey, we're not giving you any more weapons because we wanted to force a ceasefire. There was time, and so why not? Why in your mind it can't be the other way around, where the United States basically tells Israel, "You're doing our dirty work. You're the one who's executing."
I see.
Can I got to bounce in a minute. I just want to maybe say one thing, and I really enjoyed this, Mario.
And maybe we're gonna be we're gonna be wrapping it as well. So I understand. I will give you. Go ahead. I'll give you the final comments, Yo, Stefano, and then Cenk final comments as well. Go ahead, Yo.
Sorry, no, I need to go. People will say, or as Cenk says, if money is giving, if AIPAC or is giving money to a politician that they align the values, they must therefore own them. But he's also saying, but America is giving Israel money, they own us. At least I'm consistent. Yes, America owns and controls Israel. That's the whole point of welfare. That's the whole point of giving money. You say follow the money, which I agree to some extent, and in some ways, every time is different. But America forces Israel to take money. It's welfare so they can control you. So they always come back asking for more, and they need it because they come dependent. I don't want it. What are you talking to me?
Well, go talk to Netanyahu. Go talk to AIPAC.
This is great. AIPAC has nothing to do with Israel, man. It's a bunch of American Jews. The Biden administration.
Come on.
The Biden administration embargo, which you said they were the same as Trump, lie, which Stefano just obviously proved that you're wrong. We all know that. Forced Israel to now onshore a lot of weapons. I think what you're going to find in 5 years, 10 years, God willing, and especially with JD Vance, because I think he definitely supports this, is Israel getting completely off, independent of America. It will be good for Israel, it'll be good for America, and it'll be good for the Middle East. I do need to go. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, Cenk, this was fun. Mario, I appreciate it. Only because it's the Sabbath is coming. We'll go off in a minute.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up as well. We've got an interview coming up in an hour and a half. Cenk, your final thoughts. We've spoken a couple of times since that war started.
Yeah, I didn't mean good riddance to Yoel. I meant good riddance to Israel taking our money endlessly. So I would be thrilled if Yoel's side in that particular issue won in Israel and said, we don't want any more of your money. We'd like independence. Oh, for Christ's sake, please piss off already. Okay, so now to answer Stefano's question. So, brother, there's two issues with Iran and America, right? So one stretches all the way back to the 1950s when we, overthrow their democratically elected government, and then we install the Shah and go, now give Britain and U.S. cheap oil, otherwise we'll murder you and do another coup and take over your country. So the Iranians get super pissed about that. They do the Iranian Revolution. And then that puts us in a conflict because they took our hostages, right? So I get it. Obviously, from an American perspective there, we're pissed that they took our hostages, but we also have to be cognizant that we started that. And this gets to the main question that Yoel seems to miss, okay, which is that there's a distinction between American politicians and leaders and American people, right? So the American politicians at the time worked for the oil companies. So they got America in a lot of trouble and started this giant conflict with Iran in the Middle East in order so that our oil companies can make more money, right, for their profit. Did that help the American people? No. It got our embassy raided. It got hostages taken. It's cost us trillions of dollars, this needless conflict, just to please other donors, which were the oil companies, okay, back then. Now, we have a second problem with Iran, which is that Israel wanted to wipe out their 7 enemies. And they explain that in a project for a new American century, the Neocon project. And as General Wesley Clark has pointed out, and everybody's pointed out, the neocons on behalf of Israel had 7 countries they wanted to target. They wanted to start with Iraq, and then they wanted to go to, Lebanon and Libya, etc. And they have now attacked every one of those countries, or gotten us to attack every one of those countries. And Iran was last on their list. So now they're saying, okay, America, you need to start this war. Oh, you didn't start it? Okay, then I'll start the war. And now you're going to have to pay for it. Okay. So Yoel's talking nonsense. Israel's going to take that money from here to eternity. They'll take another 100 billion. They'll take another 300 billion. They'll have us fight against every enemy they have. In reality, does America at this point and Iran need to be enemies? No, we don't care about Iran. Iran doesn't care about us except for our support of Israel. So we're going and doing the dirty work of Israel all throughout the world. Why do we even have to attack Iraq? Iraq didn't attack us on 9/11. And you know where we got the intelligence that they had weapons of mass destruction? From Israeli intelligence. And at the time, Netanyahu, the same Netanyahu, said Iraq is our #1 enemy. So, okay, look at that. They made us fight their enemy. That wasn't our enemy. Saddam Hussein's a terrible guy, but he used to kill Al-Qaeda. He was opposed to Al-Qaeda. Iran opposed to Al-Qaeda. As you explained earlier, Stefano, they did their biggest missile strikes against ISIS. So we're aligned on against Al-Qaeda. We're aligned against ISIS. The only reason we have a beef with Iran now is because Israel is making us have a conflict with them. And Israel has turned the whole Muslim world against America. And
I do need to make a small correction, Cenk, there. It is well known that key leaders of Al-Qaeda are in Iran.
You're saying.
No, they've been there for a long time. The Iranian Islamic Republic has protected key leaders of Al-Qaeda that are in Iran right now. But
they've also been opposed to Al-Qaeda when they thought it was a real threat.
I mean, I don't view Al-Qaeda and ISIS as the same. They're two separate organizations. ISIS came from Al-Qaeda.
Stefano, you acknowledge that if they think it's a threat to their regime, they will attack ISIS, Al-Qaeda, etc. And so right now they think Al-Qaeda is not a threat to Iran because they're so limited in what they could do, and they're trying to use it as okay, in case we need to use it against Israel or whatever. It's totally impotent, right? And then if they didn't need to foster them as an attack against Israel or God forbid America, well, then they would get rid of those guys in a second because they would be potentially just a threat to their regime. So people shouldn't be naive about any of this, right? The Iranian regime are not good guys. They're fundamentalists, they're mullahs, they're not in favor of freedom, etc. And Saddam Hussein was not a good guy. That didn't mean we had to spend trillions of dollars fighting Saddam Hussein, and it doesn't mean we need to spend billions or trillions fighting Iran when we don't like. Why do we need to go fight Peru or Norway or Cambodia? It's super random, and we don't fight those because they're not Israel's enemies. But the minute they're Israel's enemies, all of a sudden we have to fight the war, or we have to finance the war, and we have to give Israel money. And it's not an open question. AIPAC has the word Israel in it. It is totally for the benefit of not America, but for Israel. They have spent hundreds of millions of dollars purchasing American politicians. That is a fact. You can catch feelings over it. You can say, oh, I'm offended that you're stating facts, but that is a fact. And then those politicians have given inflation-adjusted money, $311 billion from the average American who's barely struggling to get by. They've given $311 billion to Israel. Are we going to get it back? Are we getting our $300 billion back? No, they're going to demand because they're our special ally and they're doing self-defense. They're going to demand another $300 billion and another $300 billion until finally we wake up, right? But for now, Israel views us as giant suckers. What a joke.
Jump in with some breaking. Mario got some more.
Yeah, sure. We'll get up in. Let me say.
Yeah, sorry.
Hold on, Stefano. 2 seconds before you jump in. Cenk, absolute pleasure to have you as always. I'm sure we're going to have you again as this continues to develop over potentially more than 2 weeks. But it's been a pleasure to have you on the show again. Thanks, man.
Thank you, guys. Whether you're right wing or left wing, not a single dollar to Israel. Not $1, not one soldier.